I'd like to call to order the April 13th, 2021 meeting of the Nelson County Board of Supervisors. Please stand for a moment of silence. Mr. Parr, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is public comment. Reminder, you have 3 minutes to tell us why you're here and what's on your mind. And when you come forward, please give us your name and your address before you start. I have one person signed up, Johnette Burdette.
Good afternoon. My name is Johnette Burdette. I reside at 135 Pine Hill Lane in Norwood, Virginia. It's an honor this afternoon just to stand before you as the newly appointed Executive Director for the Nelson Heritage Center. I've been appointed by the Millennium Group, and I know that you are well aware of the wonderful work that they have already been doing in the community. Just wanted to take a few moments to highlight a couple of things and then ask for your continued support as I acclimate myself in this new role and partnering with you as the Board of Supervisors to continue to do great things in the county. Over the last 15 years, the Millennium Group has been active in establishing a number of programs at the Nelson Heritage Center, which sits right on 29, including recreational programs for youth and adults who represent diverse communities from across the county. There are computer classes, tutoring, and training workshops for youth and adults. And in 2013, the Millennium Group partnered with the Nelson Heritage Historical Society to create the Nelson County Oral History Project, which is a wonderful project that records the life stories of citizens over 80 years old here in the county. That's just a brief snippet of what the Heritage Center stands for, what the Heritage Center has been doing over the past several decades, and what the Millennium Group means to the county. I ask for your continued support, as I said, as I acclimate myself in this position. I just want to give you just a little bit about myself as we learn more about each other and we get to know each other. I have long followed the work of the Millennium Group and admired their determination and persistence for access and opportunity for all citizens in Nelson County. My first calling is to teach, and over the last 20 years, I have been blessed to use this gift in a multitude of venues. Each job, I believe, that I've had, each assignment and each task have prepared me for the opportunity to serve this community, one that I love so much, and the citizens who have birthed and given me purpose. I believe that I now have the skills and the motivation to partner with the Millennium Group in expanding their mission of promoting education, to preserving the culture and history of all citizens, and to providing social and cultural experiences for all communities. I am a proud product of a historically Black college or university, and I am a strong proponent of equitable access. As a parent and educator, my life's mission has been to ensure the least restrictive environment for our most vulnerable populations to excel. I believe that my experiences over the past 20 years in education and in policy and in nonprofits have afforded me the encounters and the connections to take the Millennium Group as well as the Nelson Heritage Center to the next level. So I would ask that you join us, as I said, in partnering over the next several weeks as I roll out a plan that will encompass the next 100 days in partnership with the board of the Millennium Group to present Building for Tomorrow by Investing in Today, as we set our priorities and we focus on what the next steps are for the Heritage Center. Thank you for your time. I look forward to continuing to work with each and every one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
And we hope to help you.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to the board?
Good afternoon. My name is Miss Jerry Johnson, Shipman, Virginia. I'm following up with Jeanette there. Just very briefly to do one thing. I don't know that she mentioned it, but I know that most of you know Callie Nunnery. She's the one of the very few people in the beginning that started out with the Heritage Center, and this is her niece. And she's done fantastic things before she came here. She's been here around 8 years and now she's taken this position, which we're all excited for. Also, at some point, if you all feel free, come over and look at the gym. The gym is doing wonderful. It's looking really good, the way it's progressing. So we are very optimistic at this particular time that things are going on well. And I am hoping that you all recognize this as a major effort by the community throughout Nelson County to have this site for the community, because initially, for the last 3 or 4 Saturdays, a lot of people have been coming for vaccinations. And been very successful in organization, and the health staff has been really impressed with the organization of volunteers that were there. So we got a lot of good things going on over there. And my request to you is to please give us support when we approach you about various things. We're not doing this in a bubble. We're doing it for the community. So I'm thanking you in advance to each of you, as we know you in the community can help us work this together. The second thing I see on the agenda that I want to thank you for is your positive, I'm assuming, is positive endorsement of the letter to FERC. You know the battle that we won with pipeline, and you know what we're looking at right now. So I'm hoping, I haven't seen the letter, but I'm hoping that you are supporting the request to FERC to give the right of way back to the affected landowners. The right of way of the easement back to the affected landowners. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, we will close the public comments.
In the consent, I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman, are we gonna have somebody from dispatch come up and speak?
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce them, and I think Derek's gonna make some remarks.
Great, so I would just like to pull R 2021-21 from the consent agenda, and we vote on that individually.
Okay, any objection to that?
What was the last number?
21. Under number 3 on the, it's number D, item D.
Okay,
Just pulling that separate from one.
okay. Then the consent agenda consists of 3 resolutions, R 2021-18 through 20.
Yes.
Okay.
Looking for a motion.
I'd like a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed all 3, and just to emphasize, I also have no issues with the letter to FERC. It is appropriate. I move that we approve the consent agenda 18, 19, and 20, those items.
Okay. Any discussion? I'd just like to mention that I did find a typo in the letter to FERC. I'll be glad to clarify that for you. Some comment? There's no other
What
comment?
happens to those right of ways? I mean, if they take them back, do they get their money back, or how does that work?
It depends on the contract.
Yeah, the short answer to that is we don't know. There's no obligation for Dominion to restore those easements to the landowners. So the letter requests that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission create a situation where the people who sold those easements under the threat of eminent domain be able to regain the full use of their properties. But that process and that request will, remains to be seen what's going to happen.
Yeah, I would want to comment that, does that mean that they get the money back, or how does that work?
There's no set way to make that work. If there is a scenario by which this could happen, then the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission would have to lay that out because Dominion has not come forth with a plan.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Ms. Myers?
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes,
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes. We'll just hold on resolution D for the time being and bring it back later.
Do we want to just break? Is Russell coming?
He's not coming. He's
Okay.
covering for the staff over here.
Yeah, why don't we just let them come on up so they can.
Okay.
I can introduce.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you. So we have the dispatcher and communication staff here. I'll introduce them individually. Derek Kidd, who's the senior dispatcher. Elizabeth Libby Ashby, who's also the senior dispatcher. We have Raven Rhodes, who's classified as a communications officer. And lastly, Mackenzie Vine. Yeah, coming to the board, dispatch or communications for the county, public safety communications has radically evolved just over the time I've been here. Mr. Harvey can probably speak to this far better than me. It takes an outstanding person to be a communications officer. It's become a much more highly technical field. And we're using more complicated software every day in the center. And I just want to say, I certainly know Derek and Libby better than Mackenzie and Raven, but I'll just note to the board how proud we are of the center and what they do. This is an example. We recently had an audit from the state police of the VSIN and the NCIC, which is criminal checks that we run in dispatch. It's requires a lot of effort and work to maintain and to do a good job. And we, as I said, we just had an audit from the state police on that, and Libby can speak to this if she wants to come up. I think we got the highest rating and outstanding rating we've ever received. So very proud of that, and very proud of our staff back here.
Great.
Eric, maybe you want to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Just wanted to mention again, the VSIN audit was very well, one of the best scores that the county's ever gotten. We've also improved our dispatch center with a new computer-aided dispatching computer, and we're getting ready to do EMD. We're coming along very well, and I'm proud of everyone that I work with, and I want to thank you all for continuing to support us.
thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, have the opportunity to read the motion.
Amen.
Great. Yes, and without further ado, of course, I know I've sent an email in recent history from someone in my constituency thanking y'all for a very tough circumstance, and you guys being the advocates on the other side of the line. Of course, you're the unsung hero that we often don't get to see a lot. So we appreciate you. Your efforts are definitely seen and seen, but I guess we don't see you too much. But with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass resolution R 2021-21, Nelson County Board of Supervisors, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week from April 11th through 17th of 2021. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require law enforcement, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of law enforcement, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and the preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our first responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone into the Nelson County Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our deputies and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Nelson County Board of Supervisors declares the week of April 11th through 17th, 2021 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Nelson County, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe. That is my motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes,
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Being aware of where this dispatch center has come from, it's come a long, long way. Back in the time when it was downstairs in a little tiny room, and, professionalism has really come to fruition. I mean, it's so good to listen to them and just hear. I guess that's the best training you can have, is listen to the different dispatches. And I mean, it's very touching to see how good we've got dispatches. I mean, if you think it's something simple, it ain't. It used to be you picked the phone up, took the call, and you hit the button to page out whoever you needed, and talk to them a little bit on the radio. But now with all the sophisticated stuff, plus taking on the VSEN stuff, and we've got a first-class dispatch center, and we've got first-class people. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Okay. Moving on to our VDOT issues. Thank you all for being here. Start with VDOT report.
Be nice to feed them one day this week.
It's good to be here. I know we got a couple things here. Just to bring you up to speed a little bit, our state forces are out and about trying to accomplish some good work. Right now, we are working on Hilltop Road down here, trying to do that pipe replacement right down here next to Shipman. That's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're hoping to have it completed in the next couple of weeks, weather permitting. Been a lot of litter pickup going on in Nelson County. We use our contractor to make a litter pickup on all primary and certain secondary roads. I don't know if they've completed it yet or not, but they should be getting close. And that investment, since we haven't been able to get inmate gangs up here to help pick up litter, we made a decision they got so unsightly that we would use that contractor for pickup. And they're picking it up, and for your information, that is an investment of $10,000 $690 each time we can get that contractor to pick the loader up in Nelson County on his designated routes. And in addition to that, I know our state forces, they have been picking up some loader too, and they've been cleaning up some areas that needed it. I know I've been seeing a lot of limbs that have been cutting limbs along the edge of the highway and getting up some debris from the ice storm. We are patching in advance of our paving schedules, and we are filling potholes. Maybe you probably know where some that we haven't filled, but we're still filling potholes. And we got one rural rustic project that's kind of under construction, not in full speed yet, but High Peak Road, we should be hitting that hard within the next couple of weeks as far as our unpaved roads. So hope that comes on through and the weather holds up where we can get on and get that road hard serviced. Any questions on any of our operations or anything?
Who's responsible for 250 as far as cutting trees and clearing back?
250,
250.
that is Charlottesville Residency, Yancey Mills area headquarters.
They need to come up and just do a clean swipe all the way up on the west side. But it's trees, I mean, everywhere where they just go up and cut them off right at the edge of the road, and I mean, they're just everywhere. And when they see a tree that's leaning 3/4 of the way, why don't we remove that tree instead of waiting until it falls across the highway?
Well, I mean, our trimming operations have changed. We have to, somewhat, we can't put the power line cut on them like we have done in the past. They want the canopy. Our guidelines require us to do the canopy look rather than, the utility cut, so to speak. It's more aesthetically pleasing.
That doesn't make sense. Why do you want to build a canopy over the roads? At least when it snows and stuff, you would normally have sunshine to help you. I mean, it just doesn't.
I understand.
This is, the ash tree blight, ash borer. I see so many dead ashes hanging over the roads. Are you preempting any problem with it? Because those trees they come down.
Yes, they are. Our roadside manager, they are actively removing those trees where they are hazard or threat to the roadway. I don't know how far along they've gotten, but there's a special initiative to note those trees and get them removed. No. I don't remember all the details, but I remember that I remember him talking. That's Bill Lewis as our roadside manager out of Lynchburg. And he was talking about, that is a priority to get those trees removed, those dead trees removed.
So I know we had a lot of discussion a while back about Reed's Gap and all that, and I haven't been over there, haven't heard anything, so no news is good news, I assume. Yeah, exactly.
Forgive me.
Uh-oh.
We have not gotten our environmental clearance on that yet. That's the only reason that hasn't happened. The wedging we were going to do up on top of the mountain, we are not given the green light environmentally to proceed with our construction.
You talked, okay. My question is about signage. And again, I haven't ridden over there since all this happened. Where are our signs? I got a call yesterday from Steve Morelli, who's the board supervisor on the Augusta side. asking, saying he had heard from his constituents that we didn't have signage, but I'm pretty sure we have some
We've got
stuff.
signs, we've
That's what I
got signs on 151, and, they're up.
And then there's something in Beach Road,
There's
right?
something, there's one additional sign, I think, if I remember that sign layout right, there's one additional sign before you get to the top of the mountain, maybe in there around, it was two on 151 and it was one going up 664. And the ones on Augusta County, there was two or three down, on the lower part.
Like Hershey or that, over that way.
Hershey's, and there's one I think there's one right at the Parkway.
And then there's one right at the bottom of the mountain too.
Yeah.
I'll run over there, but I was just curious. Is anything going on, the Cottrells on Lowesville Road behind Dollar General, the pipe that we talked about on that driveway? Do you know anything? Tommy and I were talking about the program that's available for pipes.
You talking about replacing that?
That driveway of the Cottrells?
Yeah. That's the one you've been talking about?
Yes.
Kind of hadn't really worked on that yet. Mr. Harvin and I talked about that the other day, with the new drainage item in the 6-year plan in our secondary road budget. We should be able to address that. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Whenever we get a lot of water, right there is where it kicks out into Lowesville Road, and then it starts going from there. That little drainage carries a lot more water than you realize. Last but not least, I was contacted by the chief of Pine River Fire Department with a request that VDOT look at Firehouse Road. Right now, the road has such a crown in it, the way it's settled on the sides, that the trucks, even when they need to go south on 151, they're going to Lowesville Road, down to Dollar General, and down 151, rather than taking Firehouse Road direct because of the condition of the road. Is there any way we could get some work done on the shoulders and maybe level that out so it's not such a crown in the middle?
Yes, we right now, we could do some, the ideal thing to do would be just go in there and work those edges. I don't think I certainly don't think we can pave the entire road, but
No, just the.
we should be able to take one of our little pavers and, make a pull down both sides of the road and get something a little bit better, a whole lot better as far as the edge of pavements. As far as doing it with maintenance funds, I really need to wait until after the end of this fiscal year, sometime after July 1st to do it, because our funds are, for this fiscal year, have become very, very tight.
You just add that to the wish list.
Wish list?
Yeah.
We gotta have a wish list.
Yeah.
I think we're
It's just with
a big one.
the width of that road and the way it's crowned, and you get up to the top of that hill, if somebody's coming the other way, it's not very good to meet a fire truck right now. That's all I have.
Does the fire department own all the way to 151?
No, Billy Thompson owns right there at the sawmill, that last little bit right there on the edge. Fire department owns pretty much where you get to the sawmill, where that little drainage area is, right there. And then Billy Thompson owns the rest of it.
The drainage problem has been there shit ever since I can remember. That's-
Yeah, that sawmill, man, they just create a mess.
And we'll, when Mr. Parker was superintendent of the ground, they went in and did quite a bit of work and made some improvement, got it draining better, and it's time to do that again. I mean, the debris and the dust from the mill, it just chokes everything up. So that's something we can certainly take a look at doing.
I do not have anything. I do appreciate what you did in Livingston, sweeping up the rocks for us. Greatly appreciate it.
So, I'm wondering what the protocol is for requesting a traffic study, a traffic count. On 151, there are projects before the planning commission and the board very soon that have potential of increasing the traffic along the 151 corridor. But the difference between what's north of Route 6 and what's south of Route 6 could be significant because you're familiar with the problem of traffic on real busy scenario on 151. Perhaps getting a more recent traffic count on some of the higher traffic weekends could be useful. And then also the stretch of 151 before Beach Grove Road, because again, there's some other potential projects that could increase the traffic load there as well. I'd like to get.
Mr. Reader, you talk about something other than our yearly, we count primary every year.
Mhm.
And the 2000, they usually run about a year behind. The published 2019 counts just came out. So it would have the most recent count information, but it wouldn't be, I don't know, it would, at some point in time, they did a 24 or 48-hour count when they put the tubes down. Now, whether it captured all that traffic on 151 during the right weekend or not, or a weekend, I don't know. Do you see the need for something greater, more specific traffic count than that? Because it will break it down it should break it down from the intersection of 6 River Road, north and south.
That's probably what we need, but already it's a year and a half, 2 years.
And that might be a good thing, because if the raw data was taken in 2019, it would have been pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Because, the counts in 20, I wouldn't, as far as being a regular count, I think they would probably be low, because of the reduced travel. So your 19 count is probably going to be a more accurate count than if we went out there than the counts that they took for 2020 that haven't been published yet.
Yeah, well, you might think, but the problems with increased traffic just, has escalated over the past year as well. So,
COVID has increased traffic more than it's cut traffic. Because these people that want to get out of their house, they go into these different businesses over there, and
Well, yeah, I mean,
we need
it's
to
just
do
an
we need to
explosion
do
right
a
now.
special count where they come in and do some weekends.
Mhm.
Because you normally do them, what, middle of the week or something?
Well, I would imagine they're done doing the week,
Yeah.
maybe.
If you can request some weekend counts that, these businesses through there, I was talking to the lady that runs the ski shop up there at 664, and they had a tremendous year. That, they couldn't find any help, but, theirs was great, and it's because people wanted to get out of the house and go do something. And we got the things for them to do.
So as Mr. Harvey suggests, is that something that's possible?
Yes, if we want to get some weekend counts, up there on both sides of, River Road? Okay.
That'd be very helpful.
I think most of the information still leaves, it shows you that the biggest traffic movement through there is cut through.
Right. But
Going north and south, and it's a cut through.
The sheriff's here too. I talked about that last week, Route 6, and you assured me that the police are stopping oversized trucks. Is that true?
Yes, sir. And sometimes they have special permits to go to certain businesses, and so our citizens may see a large truck, and they have a trip permit that allows them to proceed to a business, if they have specific business. And sometimes, just to the average eye, it may be deceiving that we're letting them just, buy in the law.
So you're comfortable, you're doing enough of that?
As much as we can.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, go question some of the local truckers through that.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be only allowed at the firehouse one day a month. And I know one boy that got checked 3 times in 1 week.
The other thing I'm curious about, this is wild, you know, my daughter lives in Charlottesville, so I go to Charlottesville, and they have the new turnoff on 64, where they bring the traffic across 29 to go in. And I've heard it from you too, the trucks are really reluctant to go north to 64, because they can't cross 29.
If they're
You know what I'm
going,
talking about?
if they're going north.
If they're going north and they want to go west on 64, especially during rush hour, they can't get across the road. They can't get across 29.
You got the
They back
29,
up, they can back up for a long distance.
29 southbound traffic.
Yeah.
At times, you can't
Yeah,
get
there's
on
a bottleneck
64
right
and go
Yeah,
west.
there's a bottom, well, since they have a light there anyway, why couldn't they have a light there to enable those trucks to get across the highway? Maybe that would lessen the number of trucks that
The
came by
amount
your
of
place.
traffic that's running through 29 versus the number of trucks that are waiting to turn, it's no match.
No, they have to keep the time on the 29.
They're not doing
throughways.
something now, but that's actually south of that intersection. They're trying to improve something to do with.
Safety, it had to do with safety. It was a
Well,
very tough place to come in.
That's just a temporary light while they redo that intersection. That's not gonna be a permanent stoplight at that, on Route 29 there. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's not a potential solution for our problem.
Well, the problem is you got up on the interstate, you got the crew, people coming off.
Yeah.
Getting on interstate, getting off interstate, and you're
It's a
crossing
dangerous.
each other.
Something we talked about time and again is the railroad crossing in Ty River, where trucks get stuck. And I went up there the other day to see what that sign, and there is a sign there that says no trucks come down there. Once they get down the hill, it's trouble. It's way too late once they get there. And that they have a sign, but the way it's set up, it's right near a field, and the fence for the field is right near. And you really don't see it. I can see why certain truckers miss that sign. If you could find a place to put that sign, or maybe enlarge that sign, maybe that would deal with that problem. Because it's funny, the sign is there, but if you're not looking for it, you don't see it.
Don't we have one on 29 before you turn on to
Yeah,
Ty River Road?
yeah, you have that, that's okay, but that's even, if trucks make that mistake, they have a chance to recover, turn around. They can't, they have a real hard time turning around.
It's a sign over there as soon as they turn off.
Yeah, well, both ways, you know.
And we can take a look at it, but I don't know that I'll get anything else out of our traffic engineers, because I mean, they reviewed it, but just other than to tell them that, you know,
Just in a better
it's still
place.
happening, you know, those trucks are still going down there, and, you know, do we need to increase our size of our signs, or try to communicate a more effective message?
Well, once you turn in either end, you either gotta go somewhere where you think you can turn around, because it's terrible place. You can't back out in Route 60 or 29. So once you make your turn, you're there, and it's, unless you can go down
And
town
once you go down the hill, down to the
Yeah.
Ty River, you are.
from the 29 side, you've had it, yeah. It's more, you used to get all the trucks in there in her driveway,
I wish she still does. I just talked to her the other, you know.
but I don't see the same trucker going to trying that trick twice. Because
Yeah, I don't,
It ain't no getting around it.
Mr. Martin, I mean, that's, I don't know what the answer is, I mean, you,
It's just a
You
bigger
put up-
sign, it's just something that you see, and, you know,
The answer
Maybe.
to it is redo it, but the cost would be, yeah. So we'll try some signs, be a whole lot cheaper.
Right.
Okay, everything else, Mr. Brown? Okay,
okay,
onward.
onward. The next item, is the small scale project on Route 29 and Route 6. I need to have some information on that project. As many of you may know, that project is being considered to be withdrawn from being constructed at this time. And what we found out prior to, when we did our 8-step sign improvement project right there and put in the dynamic flashing lights, we have studied that intersection again, and there's been over a 50% reduction in crashes at that intersection since we put those dynamic flashing lights up. And our study indicated that those dynamic flashers are doing more as far as reducing crashes than the proposed R-cut improvements would do. That project would not have a impact on the crash data. And that's the whole point in doing a safety project, is to reduce crashes. And basically what our study indicated was that going further with this R-cut project wasn't going to yield any results for the amount of money we were going to spend. So that project is being considered to be withdrawn. Mr. Carter is, I think, Steve, you got a letter from our district planner talking about it, and a copy of a letter that's basically asking for the board's concurrence in withdrawing that project from a small scale project. And there was one other thing, another item that came out of the new study was that due to the steep grade and the amount of time it would take those trucks to turn, that by the time they turned, a car would have caught up with them, and, you know, we felt like the study showed that the rear end collisions would go up at that location because of that steep grade. So for those reasons, VDOT, you know, would like to withdraw that project from being constructed. And basically, we need the board, the county's concurrence. The question was asked, where would that funding go to? That funding that was given for that project would be returned to Lynchburg District grant monies. And that's money, construction money that is exclusive to the Lynchburg District. It's not in the statewide pot for competition. And that money could be put on the 29-653 project at Oak Ridge to advance that. So it's not like this money is going to go back into another locality. That money could stay here in Nelson County and be applied to that project. In the future, we would still want to continue to monitor that intersection down there, 6th and River Road, in case the traffic data or crash data changed, we would still monitor that. And if necessary, consider an alternate project there instead of the one that we had proposed or the county had put in for. So that's kind of what we'd like to do. This has been discussed with our CTV board member, and I'm pretty sure he's on board with it. But Steve, this is gonna happen fairly quickly as we're approaching preparing a new statewide 6-year plan. So to answer your question, when do we need that letter back with you all's recommendation or agreement to withdraw that project? We would need it pretty quick. Any questions on that?
Whatever happened to the other end? I thought that was already in that smart scale thing, 6 and 151 at the fire station. And someone told me it's not on the plan now.
That,
I thought it'd been funded.
I don't think that made the cut. That would have been, that wasn't selected, that was round 4. That was round 4 submission, we just had round.
It has already been accepted in some prior plan than that.
I don't know, I was thinking it did score high enough, Mr.
It
Harden.
did score high enough to us. That intersection and 840 and 151 were both made that cut a couple years ago, and now, they've readjusted them, and I mean, the 6 and 151 is much worse than the
6 and 151, that was a roundabout, wasn't it?
No.
Yeah, it was around.
That was a roundabout.
Is that one too? All of it. I think, isn't that like all of our smart scale plans? Pretty much. Pretty much all of our smart scale aren't gonna happen.
We're not gonna make it.
I said, it sounds like most all of the smart scales that we had endorsed in years past aren't gonna happen. Is that correct? Pretty much?
Well, a bunch of them have already happened.
No, I mean, this 6 and 29 R cut.
Yeah.
I mean, it was selected, it scored well enough to be included. I don't know of any, this is the only one I know that was selected,
There's one in Tanbark Lane off.
that we're gonna withdraw now.
It's still pending.
Yeah, but more dangerous intersection is the other, the one.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
the only 2 that were funded 2 years ago, well, maybe 3, were one Mr. Brown's is reporting on it, 6 and 29. The one at Tanbark Lane at 151, and I believe one that's been completed, which is an intersectional improvement at 151 and 664.
Well, they also did the one at Avon. That was part of that program.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
those
was,
were safety improvements,
see, those were,
not smart scale.
yeah, they were 8-step highway safety, and
Uh,
they were 8-step projects, I think.
The county applied this this recent round for the 151 and 6 improvement, but none of our 3 applications were funded, were
Right.
approved for funding.
See, we did the improvement at 151 and Rock at the
Greenfield Road.
Greenfield Road. Then we did an improvement at like going back to Rockford School.
Right. That was years ago.
That was in the
I will
church.
follow up, Mr. Harvey, I'll follow up on those. If I remember correctly, they were not selected as a smart scale project, but I will certainly check on that.
I will guarantee you, in the last 3 or 4 years, they were selected. That was back when Youngblood and those, we had met on those things.
But I'm thinking they were around They were round 4 projects. So round 5 is coming up. I'm thinking these were round 3 projects, if I'm not mistaken.
Section 151 definitely needs to be ahead of 840.
Okay.
I mean, because the amount of traffic that crosses right there is just minor compared to what crosses down there at section 151.
I agree with that.
Mr. Brown, what do you need from us for 6 and 29?
We need a recommendation, I guess, to authorize us to withdraw that project from Smart Scale.
A letter. That's what Mr. Young.
A letter.
requested.
Okay.
But if so, if I may, I would just encourage the board to authorize us to include comment about the county retaining that funding. We could, if the board, agrees, as Mr. Harvey pointed out, we could emphasize the 6 and 151 intersection, or Mr. Youngblood suggested the Oak Ridge Road improvement. So either one of those two are our projects that have been applied for but not funded to date. So I definitely think the board should authorize us, if you authorize, letting this project go, that the county, that we strongly urge the transportation board to keep that funding and the Lynchburg district to keep that $2.7 million in the county, not allocate it somewhere else.
The key is if 6 and 151 or the Avon, if they're not approved projects,
No, I understand.
it's probably going to be difficult to move funding to a project that technically doesn't exist at this time.
It ain't gonna happen overnight, so.
But Oak Ridge Road is approved.
Yes,
No, and Oak Ridge Road is Oak Ridge Road approved or not?
yes.
I didn't think it was. I have to double check.
Steve, would you like me to get better information on those projects and get you the very most accurate information and I'll send that to you and you can email it out to the board? And
That would be helpful. We can check.
would that be better than?
But do you need a decision on this R-Cut project?
We need it soon.
Well, we do need, because the other thing is they said it won't even fit.
Mhm. Yeah.
They
What
don't even have
will
the
fit?
room to make it fit.
What?
The one at 29 and,
The R-Cut?
yeah.
I just don't understand that anyone actually designed that. I mean, they're encouraging tractor trailers to do a U-turn at 29 in front of Shady's. I just can't
Well,
believe
I
that's a
think-
design someone came up with. So yes, we completely support doing away with that
As
project.
long as we get to keep the money.
But,
Yeah.
and I don't have a problem doing away with that project if we can put a little pin in what happens with the money until we hear back from you. If you need approval from us to do away with the R-Cut project.
Well, I mean,
But I don't want to put the cart before the horse either.
well, what I would like to do is get that information back to you all quickly. And I'm talking about tomorrow. And you all disseminate it and Steve, find out what the options are. I mean, find out if the 29 Oak Ridge Road, is that the only project that is eligible for that? Because that's a good question. That's a very good question because that's, just what Mr. Harvey said. 6 and 151, that's y'all's priority, then, what you go.
That's where
The
your
other-
crashes are.
The other question is, can we vote to do away with the R-Cut project today pending
You do
use of the funds after we hear back from you? That way you would have the approval to do away with that project, and then we could say, we'll decide what to do with the money later.
Basically,
We can make a contingency.
you can do it any way you want to.
We just don't want to hold you up on,
Well,
So why don't we do a contingency with,
Well, if I may, I'll just be cynical and tell the board that it's probably just a polite request from VDOT to do this. They're gonna take the money if you do it or not, is more than likely. Because the project won't work.
right?
Okay. So, Mr. Carter, you can draft that letter after you get the information from Mr. Brown. Okay, and then circulate that amongst us.
Yes.
Okay, do we need to make a decision tonight about dropping the arc cut? I mean, you certainly have consensus on that.
I mean, that's certainly up to you all, but
I think we might as well go and drop it and
I mean-
then put your fight up forward. Because you ain't gonna sit there and deal with VDOT. What they gonna do and put the money where they,
well, the main thing is we keep that funding in Nelson County.
well,
Absolutely.
that
No
is
matter what.
very important. But
So, yeah, I would, if it's the board's pleasure, agree to the, withdrawal of the R-Cut project at 6 and 29, and just request that the funding stay on a project in Nelson County.
I mean, the Oak Ridge is an approved project.
It's approved
Just
project.
request that funding to go to that project.
Yeah, it's the board's discussing. We'll check our records, confirm with VDOT, and we can write the letter, let the board see it, and then confirm, does the money go towards Oak Ridge or can it be used otherwise, and let you know that as well.
That's fine.
Okay,
Just
But
consensus or vote?
If I may, as Mr. Brown said, the transportation board is either in process or getting ready to conduct their annual public hearings on the 6-year improvement plan for the primary system. So they want to make action on this when they move towards finalizing that.
I mean, there is some urgency, but we still want to make sure we don't lose out on that money.
What is that public hearing?
Oh, shucks, how much time is it now?
I think ours is, we sent it to y'all.
It's in
I think
April,
it's,
right.
Let's just send out the schedule.
yeah, it's either later this month or the 1st of May.
I would like to know, because I probably would go to that.
What's virtual?
Oh, shit.
Okay, do we need a motion or is consensus? I'm gonna work on this.
And consensus is fine with me.
Okay,
We're good at that.
okay,
Nobody's gonna argue with it.
okay.
Okay.
And then we'll get a letter from Mr. Carter and go from there.
All right, and now, next item, I sent Mr. Carter a draft of the unpaid road priority list. As stated, in some of the previous meetings in Nelson County, we pretty much exhausted our old list that we've been working off of for the last few years. This list that you have before you is just a list. It's just a list of unpaved roads that could be considered for rural rustic hard surfacing project. Some of these roads have come through requests from the board. Ball Mountain, Route 643 Whippoorwill, Honeysuckle, and Cow Hollow. Those are recent requests that I think y'all have brought to me over the last year. There are some routes on here that I put on here. Route 814 Camel's Mountain. We have one section left up there to pave before we have hard surface that entire road all the way to the parkway. That would be a very good improvement. We have a section of Cedar Creek, 654. We've been progressing our way through there. We've paved over 2 miles in previous years. That is one that we would like to complete. Jack's Hill, Route 666. We had an initial project on that, but that was completed a couple of years ago. We still have about 0.8 of a mile to complete. Hunting Lodge Road. I put that road on there because that is the section of Hunting Lodge that picks up at the current end of the hard surface. That takes it down to the intersection of Adile. We did Adile last year. It's kind of closing the loop. It kind of makes sense to do that. Jenny's Creek was a request from, I don't know if that came from the board or if we got that directly from a citizen. Been some interest on Buffalo Station, or 606, Gulleysville. There's a section over there that had major drainage issues that we had to hard surface to keep the drainage in order. That would be a good road to tie all that together. And Fork Mountain, you know, that is the last plan in the current 6-year plan. We did, I think we've got no, I'm wrong, right? Fork Mountain. Doesn't look right.
Where is Fort Mountain?
No. We've got a mile of that. We got a mile of that. I thought it was Fork Mountain that took off right there, Nash, and went up.
I don't know, man. Do we have a Fort? I don't even know. Do we have a Fort Mountain?
Yeah, we've got a Fork Mountain.
Where?
And then, I'll have to refresh that in my mind, that year. Fork Mountain. Then, of course, Cow Hollow, that's been a recent request. And I put Berry Hill on there, Berry Hill Road on there. That road is, starting to see a lot of development from the 8 Hour in. There was a lot of tracts of land over there, farmland, that have been changed ownership and subdivided, and some very, very, very nice, very nice, a lot of houses being built in there.
But we don't want to encourage it.
You don't want to encourage it.
Fix the road, they only,
The East District will take their allocation.
Martin?
Yeah, we'll take their allocation of paved roads. From them.
that's
So-
not in my district, it's in.
I think
Barry's
Berry Hill should stay.
district. It is.
Oh, fine.
So, I guess, we can prioritize these any way you like.
How did the Ball Mountain get in there? It's only got 40 count.
We gotta do a special count on that prior to going into plan. But that was, Jesse, you made that request.
Absolutely.
You made that
A lot of great
request.
people who live on Ball Mountain.
If you don't have a county, it don't make who lives back there?
Well, I'm just saying, it's paved partially, if I'm not mistaken. Well, if any at all.
No,
It's not paved at all. And there are about 4 or 5 houses that are down that road now, and they've been struggling when the rain comes and all that, getting stuck, so.
but normally what we'll do, we'll take we'll request a new count on that road. Because unpaved roads, they don't count them every year. I think they might count them every 5 years, and if you want a new count, you request it, and
Yep.
we'll get it on official count.
Well, I've heard Cedar Creek Road is expressed in the past as priority. Is that still a priority?
Cedar Creek, it's a Cedar Creek project in the current 6-year plan that does not complete it all the way. This would be the last section of Cedar Creek to complete it.
Well, there's no houses, anything else.
Well,
Well, that's not, no, there's a couple.
the next project we do would get past the last houses except for the one right at the end, at Phoenix. I guess that's Phoenix, yeah. But, I'm certainly open, it's, but these roads, these sections of roads.
Well, that Cedar Creek Road, the reason people want to complete it is who live down there in Norwood, when they're going towards Lynchburg, it's much shorter. It's a road, it's not a, lane or anything. If that road was decent, people would use it.
These roads where we've been working on them for a few years, what's within one of the really drawbacks in taking several years to build a road, an unpaved road that's 3 or 4 miles long is, you get a project done, you do a section of it, and it seems like it's 10, 15 years before you get back to doing the rest of it. And that has been a concern from, it's been a concern for some of the past board members, and it's a concern from some of the people that live on the road, is that when you stop just short of my house, well, you know, we had to stop somewhere, as far as project limits, so I guess I would encourage us to finish the roads that we have been trying to complete. I certainly think they should be a high priority, to finish what was started. But as far as the rest of them, I'm open. Davis Creek Road, I know when we did that last section of Prairie Lane, we overestimated the stones. So as far as Davis Creek cost, I don't see that costing $200,000. I see that cost about half of that, because really all we got to do is surface treat it. But I'll put these in any priority that you all want me to present at the public hearing. And,
When is the public hearing? What month are we looking to do that?
public hearing is May.
May the 4th.
With the other public hearing? Okay. Yeah. I think it's fine. I say we present it as is, and if we make adjustments, we can make them. Then, now, do we vote on this at the public hearing, or do we have to wait?
Yes, when we do the public hearing, I'm going to present a draft of the 6-year plan. And it'll be prepared and updated according to what was in the existing plan. And it'll be updated according to how we prioritize this list, because when we update the 6-year plan, it's going to pull some of these projects off this list right here. It's going to pull some of those projects, especially in the 5th and 6th year of the plan. I mean, the first 2 or 3 years are probably pretty much in place. You know, those projects have worked their way up from this unpaved road list to go into our 6-year construction plan. And generally, you know, unless there's something has changed, most boards don't change those unless they have a very compelling reason. Because, you know, citizens requested those projects.
Sure.
And they worked their way through the plan, so, you know, you can certainly change the product of any project. But generally, when they get to the point of being in the 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th year of the plan, you pretty much don't want to monkey with them fool with them, because citizens made those requests years ago, and they're not going to be coming to the road here because they say, I'm in the plan. So, gotta be careful with
This
that.
Gullersville Road, I thought that road can't be much over that distance. Is that off of 8 Island?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we got an earful from a lady that lives back there for improving that.
She didn't want it
Didn't
improved?
want to improve.
Well,
But I
Yeah.
think y'all were dealing with the drainage, and that's,
we did, we had to deal with a drainage issue down there that was being, causing damage to a person's resident property. And the only way that I could resolve that or correct it was to pave a section of that road, but there's probably 3 or 4 tenths of a mile from 8 Island to where that pavement starts that's unpaved. And somebody asked me, so Rob, why didn't you pave it all the way to 8 Island? I said, I can't do it. It's not, you know, it's just, I can't support that, so.
she lives on the back end. You know what I'm talking about? Just jumped up and down.
Yeah, but I think, you know, her objections have, you know, is to what's been done, not what's gonna happen.
That's your project to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any problem with the priorities the way they are. If, you know, if the Gulleysville Road was an issue, this is, you know, you're just getting it on the list now. It wouldn't be difficult to
Take off.
take it off, but I'd like to stay where it is.
Yeah, but then you just say that Ball Mountain was just added.
No, I've asked for that for the last 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been,
What about them 15 years? The
15
people have
years.
been asking for roads.
Which ones?
I don't know, I'm just.
Cedar Creek.
Well, I only get now.
I would ask this,
It's not even an issue until you get the traffic count.
as far as, you know, like I said, I didn't list these in any priority, because they're just on the list, they're just on the list. But Campbell's Mountain, like I said, that has a high priority, should have a high
That-
priority.
That needs to be finished.
That
They've
needs to
been
be
doing that for
finished.
10 years up there.
And, you know, Jack's Hill needs to be finished.
Yeah.
Those two needs to be finished, whether you wanna finish Cedar Creek or not, that's entirely up to you all. But those two roads,
And ones that are still are kind of piecemealed, you know, that
Yes.
you haven't met in the middle yet. or,
we ain't
you know,
in the middle yet.
Yeah, those I think should be, and then next should be the worst conditions. Should be.
So that would mean, Campbell's Mountain,
Jackson.
Jack's Hill, and Cedar Creek.
And we can,
Cedar Creek.
Yeah.
They should be 1, 2, and 3, if that's what you all think.
perfect.
And then it should be the ones that are in the worst condition.
What was two?
Well, Count Hollow is pretty awful.
Jack's Hill and. If you notice on here, there's none of them in the North District either.
Well, that's because you've
been
gotten all yours done, 32 years.
I got some more I didn't even know
You
about.
need to go to the back of the line.
He wants all the fiber, he wants all the roads, and then says he doesn't want anything in his district. You know, come on now. And he gets the tunnel.
I helped Harry get some when he first come on, and then he ended up taking them all.
Now, looking at Whippoorwill and Honeysuckle Lane, one of them's 500 of a mile long, one of them's 2/10 of a mile. You know,
Those 2/10 need to be done and get them over there.
They're low cost.
Yeah.
This is not gonna affect the plan, if you wanna throw them in there.
Yeah.
yeah, we-
The only thing that would make sense with, if you do Ball Mountain and Whippoorwill, they're right next to each other. So you might as well do those ones kind of
Okay, so
coincide together.
you wanna put those 3 requests as, 4, 5, and 6?
I think that's fine. That finishes those roads up.
Okay. All right, looking at what's left on the list.
That hunting lodge, right, I don't know much about it, but, I mean, that's gonna take just about 2 projects for what that's gonna take.
Well, it's 2 miles.
And that connects up with,
That would connect it with the section of ADOW that we just,
you mean area,
aerial.
not
Yeah,
area.
thank you.
Yeah,
Aerial,
Yeah.
that would close the loop.
that would close that loop, and that's, yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah.
And you know, Skip, at some point, and I know we share this road a little bit, what's that road off of Brown's Cove that goes to the top of Eagle Mountain? You know, that connects, what is that? No, not Deer Run, it's the gravel road that goes from to the top of Eagle Mountain. Something like that. That needs to get paved because that crossover is used a lot, especially by people coming from Shipman going down to toward Wingina Way. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, it's Eagle Mountain. That would be great to do a study on that. It's extremely high traffic.
Where?
All right, so if you're taking Brownings Cove and you're about to end it, it's half your district. We split it in half. Brownings Cove, it's right, you know where Deer Run is off 56, so take a left on Deer Run. And then it meets Brownings Cove, which heads towards like my way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Now, but if instead of making a left, make a right, it's gravel.
Right.
Is Coon Hollow Road?
That's correct. It's Eagle Mountain Drive.
Yeah, that little area, there's a crossover, that needs to be done. I mean, that's, one, it's treacherous in bad weather, two, it's used a lot, like a lot. It saves probably several minutes.
All right.
Yeah,
So it's Eagle Mountain.
Eagle Mountain Road,
It's in the area of Deer Run.
yeah,
Somebody said Cedar Creek and Cedar Drive.
no, it's not that, no. This is Coon Hollow, Eagle Mountain,
It's Coon Hollow and Eagle Mountain.
Yeah.
It's a little small stretch.
yeah, it's an itty bitty stretch,
Of
dirt,
56 east.
yeah, 56, yeah. What is it? It's a dirt road.
Mr. Brown, what do you have for the priorities now?
we're up to we're up to 6. We've got Camel's Mountain 1, Jack's Hill 2, Cedar Creek 3, Ball Mountain 4, Whippoorwill 5, Honeysuckle 6. So how do y'all want to do the rest of them? I kind of like Cow Hollow.
Not only is it a mess on 56 end, but then it's a drainage issue that's keeping people from getting home when they get water. So yes.
So we want
I'd like to keep Davis Creek up there too.
Yeah.
to Jenny's Creek.
We've had requests.
Does that have Humphreys? It's Humphreys? Okay. That's your district,
Right,
Humphreys.
I'm not sure.
Are you, Mr. Reed, you want Jenny's Creek next? Jenny's?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be 8.
Well, I want Davis Creek.
Davis Creek.
Oh, Davis.
Davis
I
Creek.
wasn't gonna say anything, I was gonna let you get by with keeping
Okay.
Jenny's Creek on there.
Why is David getting all the roads? Are we pioneering?
I've been learning
the
town.
Well, you're in the steps of the other town.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's close enough to take it from there for several years right there.
Yeah.
I think, we'll just stop there and see what
The rest
happens.
of them can sit. We can
Just kind of,
And this, well,
Throw them in there
let me just
somewhere.
do some,
We can figure this out in May.
uh,
well, he wants it set. When he brings it.
two,
Your best judgment.
for the hearing.
60, 60, 860. Eight, 823. That's about 2 million.
Oh, we need to spend some more money?
I think.
How much more money we gotta spend?
Well, we just to give you a rough idea, we get about between 5. We get usually hanging there around between 500,000 and 650,000 of unpaid road money per year.
That you just saved left over?
So, and I know well,
I tell you,
let's work these out. And the ones that are below number 8, I mean, I'll just keep them on the list, it's not prioritized, that way it'll keep them in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And if we need to do something, we can revisit those.
Okay.
But I know in the last year, in 19, we've got, should be year 5 of the plan that we're gonna prepare, we did not allocate any of that money, so we've got about 2.5 years of the 6-year plan, the latter years, that money has not been applied to any projects. And everything that was in the plan was fully funded, so we're gonna eat this list up pretty quick, and that's good,
That's what we want.
that's good, so.
Mr. Carter?
Robert, will you, I think in past years, y'all have done a color-coded map of the 6-year plan. Can you do that again?
I'll be glad to.
And show the priorities in one color, the others in another, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, Mr. Brown, you got what you need from us?
Pardon?
You got what you need from us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, takes time to do this, but we thank you for all this.
Well, thank y'all, and, we had a lot to do. this
Yeah,
year,
we're grateful.
We really just skipped last year, so a little more to it, but thank y'all very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, I will find out that information on Swatch County.
Okay, thanks. We'll follow up too.
Great.
You still have a resolution for the public hearing?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve Resolution R 2021-25, the authorization for public hearing fiscal year 22, fiscal year 27, secondary 6-year road plan and construction priority list.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Meyer?
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes. Okay. New and unfinished business, establishment of the 2021 tax rates. Ms. McGarry?
Well, and when we get that up, if I could give our report of our meeting yesterday on machine tools tax, pet tax, potentially, because that way we could address that, that would be great. Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
is that okay?
What is it?
Yeah, as soon as that,
The committee.
we met yesterday
For us to meet with.
to talk about machine tool tax.
Okay.
I just want to give you what we learned.
Okay.
We learned a lot.
Oh, that's waking up. I'm gonna do something real quick. Excuse me for 1 second.
Is that clear? It's clear to me, but my eyes are a little off.
All right. So one thing that we obviously, and I'll leave the pet tax for reports. But one thing that we learned about the machine and tools tax is on our revenue side, it shows, historically, it would show like 56, 60 some $1,000s. It turns out the machine and tools tax money is a large portion of it is being collected in the personal property section.
Yeah, what shows in our report is machinery and tools. There's more to it than that. Our report just shows about $70,000 of revenue. But there is machinery and tools that's included in personal property.
And so
And
that's,
it's about another $340,000.
$400,000. Yeah.
So it's a lot more than we had thought.
Yeah, and I think that was something that staff also learned, and I think one thing that would be healthy moving forward is that we can kind of see that and get the whole story of what machine and tools tax is. So, we learned a lot. I don't think we need to address anything with machine and tools tax, especially since what we learned. So at this point, I don't think we recommend doing anything.
Right.
with machine and tools tax.
So you're looking at somehow changing the accounting?
So it's not changing the accounting, it's just, one thing I asked Candy is if there's a way that we could just break it out, just so that we know in our heads that because we don't need to see machine toolry as just $69,000, because that's, though true, but also inaccurate, explanation of what we're actually collecting. There's a lot of trucks that we collect that are that revenue goes into personal property, even though they're taxed at the machine and tools tax rate. So there's some of those things. I think she can figure out a strategy for the next fiscal year of how we can see that separated. That way, I mean, it's good for us to know that, that people are being taxed at this rate, but it's showing up in here, and we don't get to see it, so.
So Candy, are you gonna work on that for us?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, that tax in the end.
Okay.
Okay. This is that tax.
Okay, so every year, the board is charged with setting the tax rates for the current calendar year. If you are proposing no change in those tax rates, a public hearing is not required. The proposed rates for 2021 remain the same as the current rates for 2020. For real property tax, it's 72 cents per $100 of assessed value. For tangible personal property, it's $3.45 per $100 of value. Machinery and tools tax is $1.25 per $100 of assessed value, and mobile home tax is also 72 cents per $100 of assessed value. So staff would propose that you favorably consider this resolution 2021-22 as our FY22 budget is built on the basis of no change in the current tax rates.
Any questions for Ms. McGarry?
Mr., you ready for a motion?
I am.
Chairman, I move that we establish the 2021 tax rates as they were, essentially they're not increasing and they're not going down.
The remaining,
Keeping them flat, keeping taxes flat for 2021 tax rates, so our 2021-22. That's my motion. That was a whole lot to just put in that awful notes. Yes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes,
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
You can do the next one. Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my bad. Yeah. That's nice.
Personal property.
You get it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, the board is also annually charged with setting the percentage by which the personal property tax relief that we receive from the state is distributed based on the qualifying vehicles. And we are proposing that this year, the percentage be reduced from 39% to 38% via resolution 2021-23. This will distribute approximately 1.6 million or 98% of the $1,708,030 in tax relief that we do receive from the state. That allows a little wiggle room for changes throughout the year so that we stay as close to that tax relief amount without going over.
This change doesn't require a public hearing.
No, this change is not required. No, sir.
Any questions for Ms. McGarry? Okay, you get a motion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand. So what's the change is going from 39 to 38?
Correct.
And that's just a local change?
Yes. And that's a percentage that the Commissioner of Revenue will input into the system, and the system automatically distributes that tax relief based on the number of qualifying vehicles within the system as input by the Commissioner of Revenue's office.
Okay, can we get a motion?
Come on, Tommy, you've done this before.
Do you have any questions for Candy?
Yeah, any questions?
No, I mean,
We should,
I don't see any issues with this. Anybody have issues with this? Are they just skip? Okay, I guess I'll make the
go
motion.
ahead, Jesse.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve R 2021-23.
You got a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Meyer?
Mr. Park?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Yeah, we have an option on that. We didn't do it, the state did.
Changes to the budget, the proposed budget.
I think we can vote now and then see what happens.
All right, staff has identified some changes since our last budget work session. On the expenditure side, 2 items were identified that are proposed to be included, that reduce the recurring contingency, established at the last budget work session. $4,400 for the Sheriff's Department forestry grant expenditures. This grant revenue was included on the revenue side, but not in the sheriff's budget on the expenditure side. So we're adding that back in. $11,136 for the annual subscription cost for cloud-based Microsoft Exchange backup and archiving. And this is related to the migration of Microsoft Office to the Microsoft Office 365. And this is to enhance the county's email security. Additionally, the Commissioner of Revenue's office has provided the real property and personal property valuations through February 2021, which has resulted in increases to the estimates that were included in the introduced budget. These changes will increase the recurring contingency as follows. $25,641 will be added to the FY22 real estate taxes. And that's primarily due to a reduction in the amount of land use tax relief following the reapplication period. The new total for real estate tax revenue is $18,023,192. And then we have an increase of $303,023 in estimated FY22 personal property taxes. This, we think, is primarily due to the increase in NADA values of used vehicles utilized in establishing the annual tax levy. The new total, including mobile homes and also including business personal property like machinery and large trucks, is $6,204,101. So these changes, in addition to the previous changes, results in an adjusted recurring contingency of $613,713. And our new total general fund budget is $42,090,576. So that's what our public hearing notice will reflect.
So
You are in agreement.
Yeah, I've got a question about the land use tax relief.
Okay.
Is this based on a decrease in the amount of acreage under land use for the county?
It appears so. Not everybody that was in land use for the past 6 years reapplied. Some parcels, I think, were not included based on the land use panel's visual and investigations. That's about as much as I know
Are
about.
property owners informed that they're going to be losing land use if they haven't taken action?
Yes.
I would think, I
Some
think
of
so.
these could be these larger tracts that are being bought and developed.
Right, I'm trying to find out where it's coming from, yeah.
The county ordinance requires these applications to be made 60 days prior to December 31st or January 1. And the ordinance allows another 60 days for people to follow up if they didn't meet the first 60-day requirement. So, people will be given 4 months' time to make those applications for the county's ordinance. As Andy said, the commissioner told us that many people either didn't reapply or weren't eligible to reapply or to apply, and then the land use panel found properties that were previously in or had applied for land use, they no longer qualified.
I don't think this is necessary, but
And some just plainly forget.
right, I'm concerned about the ones who just forget and all of a sudden get stuck with a large tax bill that they aren't used to seeing. But I'm just, you know,
No, I understand, but if they were in land use and then forgot, well, they still had 4 months. I'm sure the commissioner follows up.
okay. But we don't know what percentage of this has to do with areas that no longer qualify as opposed to those that would qualify but haven't been reapplied.
We can probably get that information from the
Yeah.
commissioner.
Commissioner may have more information on those details.
Yeah, I don't, it's not a deal breaker, but I'd just be interested in more.
I can't imagine that anybody that's in land use, who has been in land use, forgot to reapply. I mean, that's something that, you know, for people who are in land use, it's part of their business. I mean, they're farming, they need that, you know, it's considerable. I mean, I'm sure maybe somebody forgot, but
But Dave,
I
a
can't
lot of
imagine
times
it's
it
very many.
happens when somebody's more, or is older than the world, the mind might be as
Well,
good.
maybe.
Yeah.
You know, one of the couple could have passed
know.
away and it
Yeah.
shifted it to the other one to take care of it. I mean, there are
I
lots
do
of,
know that the committee was very diligent in their duties in reviewing the land use applications.
Yeah, this is something the commissioner handles, and this is not something that the county staff do.
Yeah.
We can check with the commissioner just to see, remind ourselves, because I don't recall if the landowner, the property owners who are already in land use get a notice, or if the commissioner advertises a notice to say, you know, land use applications are being received.
No, if you're in,
Get it in the
you
mail.
get an application.
Yeah.
Then you have to resubmit that, and then they review it
Yeah.
to see if you will remain. So they send out notice.
Yeah, I get mine in the mail, but if for some reason, you know, given the strange scenario with the mail, you know, it is conceivable that someone could have not, you know, gotten the application.
but that's her call.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, the commissioner also has the discretion to go beyond the ordinance. I know that's been done in the past.
And just for information's sake, the land use discount amounts to about $3,553,320. And we also have elderly and veterans relief, that's about $97,000.
any other questions for Ms. McGarry? Okay, we don't need to act on that, but we'll need a motion for a public hearing on the recreation ordinance. Is that something that, is there any action we have to take on these changes?
Now, if you're okay with it, we'll go ahead and advertise the budget public hearing, you know, including all these changes in the new general fund budget of $42,090,576.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
We need to pass this resolution.
On the recreation ordinance. Steve, do you have some information on that for us?
Yes. What precipitated this subject, consideration of amending the county code to authorize establishment of recreational fees is, as I reported, I think last month or maybe a couple months ago, the county has been receiving requests specifically right now for use of the tunnel for various purposes. You know, we received requests from a firm in upstate New York to film a rock video at the tunnel. We've received requests from local companies have tours with their patrons, et cetera, and we really don't have any means to address those requests. So we discussed with Mr. Payne what to do, the rec director, my recreation director, myself, and Ms. McGarry. And the conclusion was Mr. Payne studied the code of Virginia's provisions and then drafted this ordinance for the board's consideration. And what it provides for is it authorizes and would amend the county code to add this chapter 2, article 7, and would, authorize the Parks and Rec Department, as it says, such department shall as appropriate fix, prescribe, and provide for the collection of fees for the use of the foregoing facilities, which are, outlined in the first paragraph. So one question I'll go back and address with Mr. Payne, though, in the solid waste ordinance, the board is authorized to establish fees by resolution. So that may be a change we want to make, and because right now, we would likely bring, if this is authorized as drafted, we would likely bring fees that county staff develop for the board to make sure you find them appropriate. Or if, in consultation with Mr. Payne, this could be amended and say the board could adopt such fees by resolution. Because otherwise, you'd have to have a public hearing every time you wanted to change any fees, et cetera, et cetera. So, but the impetus for this is to enable Parks and Recreation to establish fees for recreational uses in the county by private entities, more or less. Well, in some cases, it would be the department's own programs, which we've been doing. And this would just formalize.
Yeah. So this wouldn't be setting a rate, so to speak, on just a family who wants to go look at the tunnel. This is trying to put something in place for those entities and have a process and procedure.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, but will you, with the amendment that you mentioned, would you then bring this back to us at the next meeting to?
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush. What, as I said, precipitated is this, with this introduction of this ordinance change is the few requests we've received today in our internal discussion about, well, what are we going to do about this? Because in some cases, it may be we just negotiate a fee with the entity because it's going to be difficult in maybe a lot of respects to have a fee that encompasses everything that may be presented to us. But hopefully we could come up with a standard set of fees for things that may be more routine, for example. But as Mr. Rutherford said, and the objective is not to charge the public for use of these facilities. It would be more aimed at business entities or entities like that who want to use the county's facilities for their own purposes.
So your suggestion to allow those fees by resolution instead of public hearing, is that?
Well, you'd have to have a public hearing to enact the ordinance, but as I said, currently the solid waste ordinance is when it was established and authorized as a provision in it that authorizes the board and, as an allowance, so to say, to set fees and to change those fees by resolution, rather than each time something changes or is proposed to be changed, you'd have to have another public hearing to make that change and amend the ordinance. So it's a matter of convenience in a sense for setting fees, but it's legal per the establishment of the ordinance.
Okay, well, if there's no hurry, you can bring this back to us next month with, have an amended resolution.
Yeah, I'll note to the board, I mean, just as an example, one thing we may want to do, which has been discussed, is just using the tunnel project as an example. We sort of envision or do envision some sort of structural facility up at that trail, maybe both trails, to capture potential revenues from And to date, we're over 50,000 visitors to the tunnel since late November. So the prospect of T-shirts, hats, water, things like that, 50,000 times, say $5 could make a change.
Okay.
So if you're okay with at least the concept of this, we can bring it back. Just to ensure, should we present it to the board as is, or make that change to, we introduce the fees to the board and the board adopts them by resolution.
Any other questions for Mr. Carter? Okay, I think we're good with that. And I guess we can go into your report. Okay.
Let me turn it out. So to update the board on some statuses with respect to the COVID-19 virus, per the Blue Ridge Health District's data sets on their website, check that. To date, the county's had 876 cases of the virus, which is 6% of the county's current population of just under 50,000, 14,904. That's for 2020 population projections from the Weldon Cooper Center. So our population in the last census was over 15,000, it's down to 14,904 at present. Of those 876 cases, there have been 39 hospitalizations, or 4.5% of total cases, and 12 fatalities, or 1.36% of total cases. With reference to county employees, and this is as accurate as we could make it because there can be changes in people's decisions. So this is what we know today as far as being vaccinated or not. So 49 county direct, not constitutional officers, employees have either been fully vaccinated or received the first vaccination. The majority of that 49 is fully vaccinated. And ones who got their first are in the process with the second. 22 county staff have declined to be vaccinated. So of that total 71 direct employees, 69% have been vaccinated, 31% have declined to be vaccinated. And with regard to constitutional officers and their employees, of the 44 total employees, 31 or 70.45% have been vaccinated, and 13 or just under 30% have declined. Now, regarding county operations, telework for county staff was concluded on April 13th. That decision was based on all county staff were given access, and we followed up on this for weeks and weeks to be fully vaccinated. And from my perspective, there's really no reason now for anyone to telework since most of the county staff have been vaccinated, or even now, those who declined still have access to be, still can be vaccinated. So we've discontinued teleworking. And then additionally, last Wednesday, I reached out to Dr. Bonds, the regional health director, and asked her for guidance on reopening county offices. I received that yesterday. So my thought is we need to write a guidance memo and then distribute it to our departments and begin the reopening process, which we can hopefully do this week or the first of next week. With the board's concurrence, of course, if you have concerns or objections to that. American Rescue Plan, we're still waiting on guidance from the Federal Department of the Treasury. We have included just under $2.9 million that was understood to be allocated to the county in the fiscal 21-22 budget, and we'll report to the board on the specific uses of the funds once we have that from federal treasury. Consulting engineering services for the business park, 2021 RFP number 1, as previously reported, we selected the firm of Timmons, Inc. from Richmond, which the board endorsed at the March meeting. The contract to Timmons was issued on March 26th. It's been signed by both the county and Timmons. We're waiting on Timmons to give us their scope of service for the initial evaluation of the properties we're going to look at for a potential business park. So contract's in place, but we don't have a proposal to begin work yet. And most recently, budget, as Ms. McCary reported, and the board's aware, public hearing on budget for next year is scheduled for the May 4th at 7, and approval at the May 11th regular session. We also, as the board is aware, issued RFP 2021 NCO2, a term contract for architectural and engineering services. The RFP was issued February 17th. We received 7 responses or statements of qualifications from primarily architectural firms who included other consulting firms as part of their team. The panel, the county's panel, which is consisted of Mr. Rutherford, Mr. Barton, Ms. McGarry, Chuck Miller, and myself, shortlisted those 7 down to 4. Those 4 were interviewed, and today we got everyone's results, and we ranked each firm from 1 to 4. And Architectural Partners, it was one of the respondent firms, was ranked unanimously as number 1. So we recommended the board Architectural Partners and authorization today to issue our contract to Architectural Partners for this term contract to provide consulting services to the county. The Piney River wastewater system, Fredericksburg-based Patterson Construction began work yesterday. The work is scheduled to be completed, I think, prior to May 11th, probably before May 11th. But we're just glad that finally the company's here and refurbishing this significant primary pumping station, wastewater pumping station that's on Route 56. On the tunnel, we're still working to close out the documentation for the Phase 3 project. That's pretty close to being finished. And we are working on the expansion. Construction started yesterday of the eastern parking lot. Smith Paving, it's a local company, was awarded the contract, $65,110. And then while we were in process with issuing the contract, we consulted internally with county staff, but also with the contractors. There were 3 trees that are in the project area, and we decided those trees should be removed in order to provide additional parking spaces. So right now, the plans call for about 25 parking spaces to be completed, but with the removal of these trees, we're sure that more parking spaces are going to be added, but we're just not confident yet how many that will be. The site's got to be cleared, and that's in process as of yesterday. That change order was $6,400. So at present, the project cost is $71,510. That funding is in this year's budget. It is grant funding from the Department of Conservation and Recreation that was allocated several years ago, really, to the tunnel project. Installation of the drop box, we fast-tracked this instead of waiting for next year. I thought that's with the June 5th tax collection period coming up, we should just do it now. So we've scoped out what the equipment will look like. It's just over $2,000, so the cost is not significant. And we asked for the board's input, but where I think we should be placed is in that circular area right in front of the flagpoles. So that's, the board has any other suggestions, that's likely where we're gonna put it. We have to order it, hopefully we'll get it soon, and we'll just get it installed. The general reassessment, really nothing new to update the board about, still in the process. I did speak just in passing with Mr. Ains, who's one of the principals for Wampler Ains, and he's the principal in charge here, and he's here regularly. It's going very well. I guess what he indicated without any specificity is they don't believe it's going to be a negative reassessment. So, and if I may, I need to go back to just ask the board another question about how we're handling these COVID-19 situations. You know, previously, I think it was the board's meeting in December, we proposed with, we have really no available CARES Act funding, federal CARES Act funding. So the board agreed to allow employees impacted by the virus to be, instead of using their own benefits, the county would just carry the cost of those benefits. So what I want to propose is, it'll sound like punishment, but if we have incidences of the county staff who refuse to be vaccinated, do we carry those costs or require them to use their benefits?
No.
I mean, our thought is no.
My thought is no, that, it's their choice, but it has consequences.
Right, yeah. I thought about doing that administratively, but when we discussed it internally, the recommendation to me was to see what the board says. But that's what would be my recommendation. It's not aimed at punishing anyone, but it seems, in a sense, inappropriate for the county to do something where the employee had the option to help deter this virus and they declined not to do it. So in a sense, the county covering their benefit, their loss of time, instead of the employee using his or her vacation or sick leave, it's rewarding them for doing, in a sense, a negative thing.
I would agree with that.
That's my report.
Any questions for Mr. Carter? Thank you.
Thank you.
Board reports, Mr. Carr.
I have nothing new to report other than you want to talk about.
Yeah, can we talk about that jointly?
Sure.
Yes, so we had a very lovely meeting with the Commissioner of Revenue and the County Treasurer, Ms. McGarry and Mr. Carter all joined us, Mr. Barr and I. We had a great conversation. We learned a little bit about, obviously, the machine tools tax, which was great. We all learned a substantial amount and maybe some ways to move forward and how to see that. But more importantly in that is we did have a chance to talk about the pet tax and where some of the many struggles are with the Treasurer's office, and what reality is. And, of course, the cost that we often have to bear making us not have any money. One of the big topics that came up out of our discussion was doing a lifetime pet tax. Essentially this is a hypothetical number, for $10, it's a lifetime pet tax and you don't have to pay it annually. To make sure that all the vaccinations have been done to the animal and also has a record for the county. And we believe, and the treasurer also concurred with this, is that would probably be a little bit more of an effective mechanism to encourage people to participate in licensing and paying taxes on their pets. So that's something that I think we could revisit. David, if you want to echo anything.
Yeah, I think that not only will it encourage participation where if you only have to pay one dog tag for a lifetime rather than getting a tag every single year, I think it'll encourage more residents to actually register their dogs and get the dog tag. Plus, it's less of a financial burden on the residents just doing it one time, $10, rather than $5 or $7 every year. And it will also help eventually, once we get through the cycle, lessen the burden on the treasurer's office of every single year having all of those to go through. They'll still have, ones going through every year, but not as as much.
Right.
Might that be a disincentive to get yearly rabies vaccinations for your dog, for instance?
That's still required.
It's still required?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what's
the treasurer's office has nothing to do with requiring vaccination. You have to have a vaccination in order to get the tag.
Right.
But you're still required to have the rabies vaccination.
And that reporting comes from the veterinarians.
Yes.
So that, they would still be getting essentially those records as they were happening.
And I've spoken to both the treasurer and animal control, and they both support and don't see any negative into moving away from an annual dog tag to a lifetime dog tag.
And there are several other, there are many counties across the state who do a similar system for the reasons. So, though this may not be something, I mean, this is something that I think we would probably suggest is doing the public hearing, showing the, I guess we'd have to show the spectrum of what it would be. And that might, I don't know what this board would be interested in doing, but public hearing would be needed, correct, Mr. Carter?
Yes, definitely.
And one thing to note, the annual dog tag does not apply to kennels.
Correct. There's a lot of them.
They would still have the same setup that they have now. This will only apply to your domestic,
Your pet house animal.
household pet.
I'm sure Steve has thoughts.
I do. If I may, my suggestion to the board is, the lifetime tag, I have no issue with that, but maintaining flexibility in the ordinance by having the annual tag as well as the lifetime tag, and maybe considering doubling the annual tag from $5 to $10. Right now, the revenue is annually for annual tags are about $9,000 for a $5 tag. If you went to 10, let's just say, for example, there wasn't a lifetime tag, that revenue would double to almost $20,000. The treasurer said yesterday it costs about $10,000 to do the tags. So you offset your costs and actually have a little excess revenue there. But in thinking about it yesterday after the meeting, I'm concerned about just going to the lifetime tag, which I didn't discuss with Mr. Reed or Mr. Rutherford, of course, prior to the meeting, is that it just gives more flexibility for people who may have an older dog or people who move out of the county or come into the county, as far as, you do it once, there's no flexibility there whatsoever. So it's up to the board. Cost, of course, I just appreciate being able to give that perspective.
For me, the original purpose of looking at this, number one, was first and foremost was to eliminate a tax and to eliminate a lot of work that didn't bring in a lot of revenue on the treasurer's office. And now what's rolling into is we're doubling the work of the treasurer's office. So I would not be, if that were the proposal, I would be voting against it. But that's just.
It would be doubling.
Yeah.
What I would hope that this board would be receptive in potentially doing is instructing Mr. Payne to draft a potential hearing for this. I guess it could be broad because it has to show the whole range of what it could be, 0 to 50, correct? Or can we actually pick a number, $10?
Well, we could leave that blank and the board could set it at the hearing.
Sure.
The maximum is $50.
$50. Yeah. So, how does the board feel of that? Out of curiosity.
I'd like to give it some thought.
Can we go ahead and instruct to get a draft, something?
Well, it would give us an opportunity to discuss it if we had a draft to bounce off of.
Yeah, that would be healthy.
No comment.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly one way or the other, so.
All right, so if we could just go ahead and instruct Mr. Payne to draft something up for us for a potential public hearing, if that's okay?
I think we should probably have some further discussion on it before we come up with something, because,
Well, against the research, whatever we
Correct.
drafted, right, yeah.
I'm still in awe of Mr. Parr's miracle of a leash law.
It's an at-large, it's an at-large ordinance, not a leash law.
I'm willing to go along with what he thinks, you know.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay, so you got that, Steve?
Absolutely.
All right, and then potentially revisit that in May or something. Perfect. TJPDC, are you done, David?
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah. TJPDC, we had a meeting. Hope there's a potential I could be the chairman. We'll find out. Trying to see how things with COVID are going, but yeah, we do have a transition, obviously, with the absence of Chip. So hopefully in the next 60 to 90 days, we may be doing some exploring on filling that position. Beyond that, I'm trying to think of what other things we had. The architectural board, me and Skip met on. It was great. It was quick and efficient. I think it was obviously it being unanimous, the relationship with that particular firm was.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Unanimous, that's what.
Yeah. Well, that particular firm we've had a great relationship with. So.
What I liked about that firm was the question was they wanted to be participants in doing the best we could do. Not just
Sure.
what we told them.
Right. So that was great. Trying to think, when did we say we were going to meet with the school board again?
Which meeting?
The
Comprehensive,
yeah.
I mean, the comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
Did we haven't scheduled that.
Maybe not. I'm trying to remember what our commentary was.
Just mid-April, and I'll talk to Steve about getting that together.
So I guess we'll just, okay, I guess it's time. Because our budgets are pretty set in stone now. Great. There you go, we got that update. And other than that, I got nothing.
Mr. Harvey?
We had a reservation of social services board, and I've been, consultation with people in the district, and talking to various people about taking the job. I understand, so I get to appoint that person to the social service board, or how does that work?
No,
Board
we
does-
still have to do the appointment.
The board does the appointment, and we can make recommendations. Right, okay.
Which district is the vacancy?
Excuse me?
Is it a vacancy by district?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Which district?
South District.
Okay.
But I assume you would, go along with one.
you take it.
I'm on the board already.
Well, I know, but since you was a
Well,
term,
no, I would think that there needs to be a member from the district on. Besides me.
We need to announce that?
I have to give the approval of the person that I have in mind.
What? We still have to advertise.
We typically advertise.
Yeah.
You have to advertise, so.
Right.
And you might get a couple more who apply on that too.
Okay. Mr. Martin, anything else?
Is this the appropriate time to talk about meeting with the school board?
Yeah.
Ernie and I met with the school board, two members of the school board, Shannon and Ms. Claire, the other day, and it was a really good meeting. The commitment of those people on the board to education was unquestioned, as the commitment of everybody in Nelson County to education is unquestioned. We talked about the particular opportunity that Nelson County has to have not just a good schools, but a superior school, and a school that could meet the needs of all its children. When they attitudes towards school often have to do with the attitudes of the parents. and have to do with the attitudes of the children. And Nelson County has kind of community that could really reinforce the quality of education, which is good, could improve. Now, there were some interesting things that came up. For instance, the board members questioned the idea of why projects that have to do with maintenance are included on capital investment. Whether fixing a roof is maintenance. It's not a capital investment in your school. It's maintaining what you already have. The other thing that was, when we talked about the consolidation of schools, and I told them that we had proposed spending $50,000 to study consolidation. And they were amazed at that because they had really not talked about consolidation yet. And we all sat there and thought that we needed as a community to think about consolidation and think about whether it is a positive thing, a thing that doesn't make that much difference, or it's negative, that we as a community should discuss that among ourselves. I think people underestimate. I know our nation underestimates the importance of education. People who are well-educated can think for themselves and can make decisions for themselves that are in their best interest. That doesn't just happen like that. We need to have a school system where particularly young children feel secure, particularly young children feel that the community supports them. We have to really work on community involvement. And before we decide that we need to study consolidation, and mostly what we're talking about is engineering questions and the cost of operation, we should think about whether we really want to consolidate our schools. And that is not that you can't hire someone to do that. You can't say we're going to go to UVA and we're going to listen to the experts. This is something we need to think about as parents and as members of the community, and to come and to trust ourselves, because that's what we want our children to do. We want them to think for themselves. And we need to think for ourselves and decide whether we want to do this before we leap into a situation where we're studying it. What we're studying is what's best for our children. And that's how we began that discussion, was what we want to do is what's best for our children. If it's best for our children to consolidate, I would favor that, even though I don't think it would be true. Thank you.
Skip, I think you missed the whole point there. That $50,000 has nothing to do with school consolidation. It's looking at a whole big realm of things. And
it says here in our questions for the engineering group that we're considering consolidation.
that's part of it, but it's not $50,000 worth.
I know that, and I would support studying the costs that are saved. Before we do that, we have to decide for ourselves whether we want to consolidate, whether consolidation is a good idea. If we decide as a community that consolidation is a bad idea, we're wasting $50,000.
It's not, it's a whole study on the whole,
what?
this whole complex thing in its I mean,
You want me to speak to it?
yes.
Well, first, if I may, The proposal that was drafted, that I drafted on recommending the board studying the potential to consolidate the two elementary schools was provided to the school division. If they haven't reviewed it, it's not because it wasn't available to them. And secondly, what has been proposed is the study of consolidation of the elementary schools because of the severe decline in enrollment in the schools. One school's capacity at present can accommodate both elementary school enrollments, but is, not to dispute Mr. Barton, there is no intent what was proposed to the board and what we recommended to harm the quality of education. What I've suggested, Mr. Barton, in several of our discussions is one of the outcomes, hopefully, of this study would be to improve the quality of education if we can, not just save money. It's to do what's the best thing for the county, including for the students.
Well, who are you going to turn to answer the question of what's the best educational policy? Who are you going to ask that question of?
The thought is the consultant firm will have a sub-consultant who specializes in education.
Skip, my whole thing has nothing to do with consolidation. My whole thing is how are we going to continue to fund the school system in the rate that we've been going? When you've got students declining, you got that.
We need to think about
But
that.
again, we
And that
don't
has to
know-
be our energies.
Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
We need to know that. I mean, if it goes in there that it's no difference in savings, well, no, I don't want to do anything. But if we can see where we can take the money that we're using right now and may do something different with it to improve the quality of education.
Well, that's what we should do initially.
Well,
Initially
you can't
decide
do that
whether
until
the
you
quality
know
of
what-
education will be improved by consolidation. That's what our initial action should be.
You need to get the consolidation out of your mind. It's having to do with how can we afford to fund the school system at the rate we're going?
I would
How
like,
can we,
I would like to note that Mr. Barton has pretty accurately reported on the meeting that we had. The information that he gave is reflective of the discussion we had, and there was, general agreement on what Mr. Barton presented. But I just mean, if this is not the time for for outright discussion on this, that we'll get to some resolution, it does reflect what the result of the two.
I would like to say this, I think what you have to say is relevant, what you have to say is relevant, but also think what you have to say is relevant. I think that there's a time where we have to depend on ourselves to think and to reason what's best for our children. Our children, Nelson County, I mean, what is possible is beyond what we think in education. But key to that is beginning when these children are young, that they feel comfortable, they learn how to learn. Your children we're going to do well no matter where they go. My children were. But my child is no better than anyone else. My child, all our children are capable of thinking for themselves. And those should be our goals in education. Costs, I understand costs. I understand that you want, but what we're about and what the discussion was about was how do we make it possible for our children to learn? What is best? What is the best policy to do that?
But Skip, I feel that you had a lot of influence on those other three and your strong feelings that you have, that I don't think it was just a flat out discussion of how things go. I think you led it so strongly that.
I think, I sit here and I'm listening to you because you have enormous experience in this realm. And Mr. Parr and you and others. But I spent my life teaching your children. And I know what they're capable of. And I know that we do not need to say that this is good enough. It is possible that we can create an educational atmosphere. I mean, I've had the same discussion with Miss Eagle, you know, and Miss Eagle, you know, I mean, yeah, Mr. Martin, you're idealistic. You are, no, the things that I'm talking about, treating children with respect, work. It's not some pie-high idea. If you have a community that supports those children, and bigger is not kinder. It's not. It just isn't. Now, if the community decides I'm wrong, I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, say, no, I'm not listening to you. But for you to say this report, this idea is not about consolidation. Yes, it is. It's because people think we can save money. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our children.
Steve, you have something to say?
If I may, I didn't articulate it very well, but the study which the board has included in the budget was still subject to approval for next year. I mean, I still envision this, whoever the consultant uses as a sub-consultant for education, they certainly would confer with Dr. Eagle and her staff and the school board on what can we do to improve the system, what are the needs, et cetera. It wouldn't be just how we're going to save money, it's to how to evaluate, as Mr. Martin said, what's best for education in Nelson County. It's not just, let's just move everybody over to one school and save a bunch of money. We don't want to, certainly, none of county staff's perspective is to in any way go backwards with the quality of education in Nelson County. If anything, one of the goals of the study should be how can we improve, if we can, education in Nelson County? Not just a ramrod through something that saves potentially a lot of money and is detrimental to the education system in the county. That would be foolish.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you. I have nothing else to report because that pretty much covered it. So appointments,
I guess we gotta appoint that person at this point.
we have the PVCC board.
Well, we can do that one, but then that lady said she can start now, right?
May or June.
Right.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from anybody else about that position.
When is that meeting? Like, is done? I'm just trying to see if this is something we could just vote on in May or.
Yeah, you could wait a little more if you want.
well, we
I have
could-
nothing wrong with appointing her now.
She's the only one. With
Who is it?
Diane Jacobs?
Oh, no, not Diane,
Hagee.
it's Patricia Hagee.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. She's one that's stepping down.
Yes.
Patricia Hagee.
I don't know her.
Okay.
So whoever knows her. Does anybody know her?
You know. Want to wait till next month?
Might as well.
Okay. One more month. We can tell. PVCC board?
Yeah, I saw the letter from the president of the school. I'm fine with that person continuing.
Tom Pruitt.
Yes.
Do we need a motion?
I imagine so.
Okay.
Is he in your district?
No, he's in Thomas.
Do what?
Tom Pruitt. to
Yes,
the, PVCC
reappoint him
board.
to
Okay.
You make a
the,
motion.
yes, I move that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
And he has been very active.
Yeah.
And it's been a good Good thing for him too, you know.
Whatever, when Dr., when Dr., I guess it's Friedman, writes a letter about somebody, I usually listen, so his comments about Mr. Pruitt, excellent, so.
Okay.
Motion second.
Ms. Meyer?
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, would you look for the motion to continue?
We've got correspondence and directives.
Oh, we're not done yet?
No, we're not done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any?
Anybody have correspondence or directives?
No.
No,
Are we in a hurry?
What time is our meet? Oh, do you have anything?
I mean, I want to bring something up.
Bring it up.
So this has been kind of bugging me, but I wanted to bring something up. So back in, I don't know, November, December, we were allocated $1.2 million of COVID money that we specifically allocated for internet access in 4 areas of the county for AEP customers, right? We said, let's give this money to Firefly. At the time we allocated the money, there was I guess it was in the October meeting. There was a deadline of December 31st. And I get that. That was our deadline for that money. We turned around and gave that money to Firefly. I'm concerned, it bothers me that just because our deadline on that money got extended, that Firefly has now set back, and those 4 projects, I don't know what y'all are seeing in the other 3, but in mine, the brakes were hit and they went other areas, doing other projects. I kind of feel like just because the federal government gave Nelson County an extension on spending that money, we didn't necessarily give Firefly an extension on the money we were giving them. They didn't get that money directly from the federal government, so that deadline should not necessarily apply to them. I just wish that there was some way we could remind them that those 4 projects are still a priority for us, that we allocated that money that we could have used for other projects in Nelson County. And request that they put back a sense of urgency on those 4 areas of Nelson County and getting that internet out to them. Because I didn't realize it. I had a neighbor 2 doors down from me send me a message just day before yesterday saying, when do you think I'm going to get hooked up on Firefly? And I just could not believe that she wasn't hooked up 6 weeks ago already. Right. And I just, and I know they're busy and I know they're working hard, but this project was a priority that they had said it was going to be done a long time ago. And then the deadline got pushed. I just wish we could maybe nudge them a little bit and say, hey, these 4 projects are still a priority for us.
So we, I'll speak to this from the broadband authority. We did ask staff to outreach and ask for correspondence in regards to all of our projects, because it's not just that money, it's also the soon to be 1.25 million that we've also allocated, and there's deadlines involved with that.
Yeah.
So we have asked to get counsel from them and tell us where they're at and what things look like, because that's a frustration not only for you, but even in Arrington and Shipman. I mean, there are people who have the fiber laying there right on their telephone pole.
Yeah.
And it hadn't gotten to their house yet. And it's been like 4 or 5 months.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning Firefly's business model and their build outs, and I understand there's all that. This was a side deal we made with them for this money, specifically for the AEP customers in those 4 areas. And I feel like when that deadline passed, when government moved the deadline, Firefly just went back to other projects. And I wish that those 4 projects that we made a deal with them on would be reprioritized.
Has that money been dispersed?
Couple things, David.
Okay.
First of all, they can't do anything until AEP gets their poles ready.
Pine River is an underground, all these were underground, those 4 projects were underground, it has nothing to do with poles. Those initial 4 that we did, the 1.2 million, those were underground
Here's
projects.
the key thing. Their board stepped in and said, no, you're gonna do the co-op customers first.
See, no one's reported that to us, and that wasn't part of us giving them that
That,
money.
I don't think it had much to do with that. It was, you see where their board's coming from.
I understand what they're saying, but they accepted
And
that
they're
money.
trying,
They were happy to take it.
I don't know.
they are trying to do both.
And I understand it's a balancing act, and I know there are co-op customers out there who are furious that AEP customers are getting it before them. I get it.
Yeah.
But we specifically said, we will give you this money if you do this. And they said, okay, we will do this. And they stopped doing this.
So
That's my point.
I want to speak to another thing, because I don't know if it's necessarily a co-op AEP issue. I've spoken to some of the folks on the ground there because they were working in the neighborhood, and they said they have 3 issues. One was January, February, did nothing but rain. We didn't see that. The other one was that they ran into was when it came to the make-ready work, that AEP was impacted by the ice storms down in Texas. Actually, everybody was, and even Southern Virginia. So there was a lot of focus that did change in that time period. That's not necessarily fiber related. That was more so make-ready related. So I'm sure some of that plays in there, but like I said, our whole intention was to get that correspondence because we have the same frustration. So, Steve, if you could echo whatever correspondence we get to the broadband authority from Gary.
Oh,
and the
yeah,
board.
of course, I made another note.
Yeah.
I did, this is you all asked for that. I think it's a January meeting, an update, and we did provide that. We'll follow up again, of course, and get it to you.
Perfect. Great. Okay. Thank you, David.
Now I'm done.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm good, man.
Can we
Let's
have
continue.
a motion to continue to our evening session?
Mr. Chair?
And just one more thing, if I may, if we go back to the RFP on architectural services, the recommendation was architectural partners. I would like to ask the board to authorize us to enter into a contract with that company.
Oh,
Serve the county.
architectural partners. Oh, that's good.
Well,
I should have made the motion.
is part of that contract the school thing?
Well, the way the contract will work is it's a base agreement and then the board will approve every project that's presented. So you're not authorizing that study when you authorize us to contract with architectural partners today, but that would be, if the board, for example, approves the funding in next year's budget for that study, then we would bring it forward and you would endorse it, hopefully, and then it would be added to the contract.
One of the things that happened, interesting, that architectural partners made clear, they knew nothing about how schools operate, and they would subcontract that out and do it.
Make the motion.
The other thing I thought was really interesting is I asked one of the previous groups what they thought about rural population. And although we keep saying that rural populations are diminishing, they were unsure of that. They had seen indications that rural population is increasing. If you remember, I think it was the second group.
Wow.
Well, as I reported earlier, who knows for what's going to necessarily happen in the county, but from 2010 to 2020, the county's lost about 1,000 people.
Yeah,
I
I know that.
I'm ready to make that motion for staff. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve architectural partners, RFP 2020-21 NC02, term contract for architectural engineering services.
Second.
Good enough for you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move we continue this meeting to 7 o'clock.
Second.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
It's 7, right? Yeah, it's 7.
What?
It's at 7.
You say something?
I said 7.
I'd say 6.
I would just say right now, but I also want to get this dinner.
Where we going?
Mr. Chairman, I suggest we go